It's long overdue for us to honor Mr. Chisolm.
For me, the question would be, why should we not honor the memory of Mr. William Chisolm? There are no numbers that could add up to what all Mr. William Chisolm did for this community and what his doings meant to this community.
As time has gone by, and so many years, and this man didn't get his due, and he was far qualified, and all the work that he did and his sacrifice and everything needed to be recognized in the community. Perhaps had no understanding, no recognition, no knowledge of who this man was, and it's long overdue.
Yeah.
Mr. Chisolm really was a man's man, and he was very, very well educated. And because his family came from a background of having a business, a funeral home here in the Rock Hill area, that afforded them some privileges or some assets that the typical Black family did not have. This allowed him to go to college, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think he went to college in Iowa. And from there, he went abroad, and I think it was in Germany that he continued his education in Europe. So he was very well traveled and very, very well educated. And it was one of his, I think one of his goals to pass that education and those opportunities on to the children who were still here in the Rock Hill area.
I first got to know Mr. Chisolm as a 7th grader graduating from this school here, which is Carroll School, and having to go to Rock Hill to continue education from 8th grade. I would see him from time to time, and he was always a very, honorable man. He was impeccably dressed at all times. You never saw him without pressed pants or shirt. If he didn't have a suit coat on, he had on a white shirt and tie, and his presence was always uplifting. He made you feel better about yourself just by being in his presence and talk to him. He was quite an impressive man.
I listened to my dad-in-law, Mr. Player. He would tell me that Willie used to go like New York and stuff and come back, with money to help the Black community here in South Carolina. He knew people's up there with the money. So he would get the money and come back and spend it in the Black neighborhoods.
Didn't he play the piano, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, he played piano, yes.
And that became part of the persona that he would present in terms of, as was said, taking friends and going north and doing concerts and putting on fundraisers and whatnot, and offering himself as a talent to allow monies to be collected, to be able to be funneled back to this area in order to do the things that he wanted to do.
I even had classmates and fellow students who went to New York and New Jersey, and at that time, because of the economic, you just didn't have the money. He would buy the ticket for you, and for you to get a bus trip or whatever to New York City, and then call ahead and have a place for you to stay because he knew people in that area. I have, my friends who actually benefited to Mr. Chisolm, paid their way, then got a place for them to live after they got there, because leaving here, you had no knowledge of that kind of. He had that kind of contact, and he used his influence to help you in that way.
He saw there was neglect and void in this community, in the Rock Hill community, in the Black community here, and took it upon himself to help fill that void or those voids, not only in providing playground areas for children, providing buses for transportation for students to get to school, as Mr. Cathcart said. Beyond 7th, 8th grade, if there was no transportation for you to get to Rock Hill, your schooling ended. And he knew that education did not end once grade school ended. So he took it upon himself to begin to provide the transportation needed for the students to go to school.
Fortunately, that very year, Mr. Chisolm bought 2 used school buses and routed one out here to this area, New Zion, and one to Catawba to pick up children who were going to high school, eighth grade and on. Most of those children who rode that bus would not have gone to high school. Prior to that time, if you graduated from these rural schools out here, you know that was the end of your education. If you didn't have a place to stay in Rock Hill, your parents could not, even if they owned a car, transport you back and forth to school every day, and work the farm couldn't be done.
The comparison of Booker T and what he did with Tuskegee and Mr. William Chisolm and what he did here in Rock Hill, not only with the Durkee Institute, but with everything that was doing. I think that it would be safe to say that Mr. William Chisolm was, in a way, the Booker T. Washington of Rock Hill.
I think it took courage to do that, because to stand up in a oppressive, racist system like it was then, and watching him and listening to him and seeing him, his heart, his love for it, and for we used to oppress people, and we were the most oppressed at that time. And God, he stood up and made a statement and did whatever resources he could conjure or put together. He used it for that purpose.
And I'd like to say that I'm proud to be his a Chisolm also, and I'm proud of that. I'm some kin related to him, because back then, like I say, you know, blacks needed all the help they could get. He wasn't a Booker T. Washington or George Washington or Carpenter. He was Willie Chisolm. He helped the peoples in his community. He came help the peoples in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Like I say, it wasn't only our community he wanted to help. He wanted to help all communities, but he couldn't step up so far out of his boundary.
He seemed to be happy about helping people. And that's the thing that I understand I got from him most, that he seemed to enjoy seeing others do well, if he could do something to help.
Someone said he was before his time. I don't think he was before his time. I think the times were behind him. And not only was he a philanthropist and an educator, but he was this businessman, and most importantly, I think he was a student of humanity. He did not allow what he had, that is, coming from a family that had more so than the average black family had, he did not allow that to let him forget who was still in the community and who still needed.